Doubles and Coffee, Guardian Media Limited, part of the PNM fake news media, at it again. 2 days ago, they had an editorial. Here the editorial. The name of the editorial is Guardian Editorial. Measuring the first 100 days in office. What, Guardian? You come to measure a government's performance? You come to analyze the UNC? Very interesting. How come for 3,558 days, you never measure the PNM? You never rank the PNM. You never rate Rowley. You never analyze his cabinet. You never give them 100 days, 200 days, 300 days, 3,558 days. You give Rowley a pass as our country went down the slippery slope of a failed nation. But listen to this Guardian editorial, and y'all, people, I must commend y'all, because all of the PNM fake news media under pressure, because you, the people, have rejected them, because you have realized that they're on games, that they're not a fourth estate, they're not journalists, they are PNM propaganda machines that try to uphold that disgusting, ridiculous, incompetent organization based on the oppression of people and the upliftment of the most inane, dotish, incompetent few who could then recuse themselves and enrich themselves, their friends and their families. Here, the Guardian, big analysis and research, for some 100-day analysis. The concept of the first 100 days in office as a significant period of assessing the performance of a new government originated with Franklin Delano Roosevelt's presidency in 1933. Elected to office, and they go to tell us about the Great Depression and so on. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, as the United National Congress this week marks its first 100 days in office, the country faces a myriad of long-term issues that cannot be solved in 100 days. I wonder, Guardian, for your follow-up, tell us how these long-term, this myriad of long-term issues, how they developed, how they progressed, how they were exacerbated, by whom, by which minister, by which political party, by which prime minister, during what period. Give us that now. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, right? 100 days, the long-term issues that cannot be solved in 100 days, no, or 5 years. Now, I've taken that point. You see, PNM always comes back like a bad rash, like a disease. And this is what we must stop. Whenever a government of competence, intelligence, heart and soul, a government for the people who takes decisions to uplift Trinidad and Tobago gets into power, you know what happens? 1990 and then 1991 election, PNM come back. 1995, Bastio Pandey to 2001, win a second term. And then greedy men inside the UNC, 2001, 18 now, PNM come back. KAMLA Prasad Bisesa, 2010, win. And then people inside, like Congress of the People, Mr. Myers, other people arguing from inside that they ain't getting nothing and mash up the government. MSJ, David Abdullah, never do nothing but complain all day. Then what happens? EBC play games in 2015 and PNM come back. PNM come back and take us backwards. Backwards in energy, backwards in economy, backwards in job, backwards in safety and security, backwards in education, backwards in sport, backwards. The PNM always comes back like a bad rash. So, let's listen to the Guardian. PNM must stay gone for not 2 terms, but 3 or 4 terms. You must decimate the PNM. If you could really ensure that the PNM splinters and mash up, like how they mash up the opposition since 1956, with over 278 opposition parties being formed, and how they continue to use PNM fake news media to uplift and uphold pieces that may decimate or splinter the opposition so that PNM could remain. We must ensure the PNM splinters. A country's performance is a relay race in which the runner with the baton must improve on the performance of his colleague on the previous leg. Really? So all the time, when Bastille Pandey, for example, improved this country from 1995 to 2001, taking the murder rate down from 266 per year down to 65, and then the PNM take the baton, and within from 2001 to 2008, they increased the murder rate from 65 a year to 550 in 2008. That was a relay battle, or the PNM take us backwards. When Bastille Pandey was running this country and giving dollar for dollar and so on, with $9 a barrel for oil, and diversifying, moving us downstream, increasing production in Point Lisas. And then the PNM came in, and they had a global boom in oil and gas, 2004. And Manning and the PNM said, tighten all your belt and suffer the people. And Rowley was in housing, building house without approvals, without town and country planning, without WASA approvals, and waste over $1.8 billion in projects up to now. Edinburgh 500 and so on. That is Rowley. What all you say about PNM? PNM does run the battle wrong the wrong way. So everybody moving forward, KAMLA Pasabi says the same thing. Came in 2010, improvement and increase in gate, tech, vox, sport, culture, moving forward, safety, security, plans, programs, economic diversification, sport, tourism. And then in comes backward Rowley, and the sea bridge collapse, and everything collapse. What about that analysis, Guardian media? They're talking about 100 days. They continued. A country's performance is a relay race in which a runner with the baton must improve on the performance of his colleague. A 5-year term must be broken into 2 periods, says this Guardian. The first 2 years are to adjust the policy approaches and to implement the necessary decisions. The next 3 years are to embed those decisions and generate the results or evidence to validate an administration. How this analysis? You didn't come out in 2020 and say, based on the first 2 years that it took the PNM to put their new policies in place, and then the final 3 years when the oppressive, dictatorial, tyrannical, oppressive, disgusting, wicked, vindictive policies of Rowley and his cabinet came into being, and the population suffered. In August 2020, Guardian, why didn't you say Rowley must go? We have analyzed his performance. His policies have been embedded, and they are deleterious to the mass positivity of people throughout the country. That 600 recusals is terrible, it's disgusting, it's corrupt. How can a cabinet recuse it? Where were those discussions? Where were those editorials? Let me give all you a little bit of some of the assessment, because the Guardian never assessed. They never assessed Rowley from way back in National Quarries. They never assessed Rowley as a failed minister of Marine Affairs. Tobago don't even have a marina up to now, and Tobago is the pristine, most beautiful island with the greatest ocean and fish and so on in the Caribbean. And Rowley was there, and he says he's a Tobagonian. They didn't have that. Scarborough Hospital and Landgate. Did you all analyze and compare Rowley? What about Greenvale, Edinburgh Towers, Renaissance, Calder Hartgate? You all thought Rowley was a corruption buster? It was somebody didn't get a contract and Rowley get vexed. Similar thing. Because Rowley as Prime Minister, his hands over every dollar spent. Only Noel Garcia could build anything. Why, boy? Or they never asked, why, boy? Guardian, they never said about that wrong, boy. How come Noel Garcia building airport, hospital, health center, police station, community centers, fire station, sports stadium, every house in Trinidad and Tobago, anything that building is Noel Garcia. The same man was in the Commission of Inquiry in Las Alturas when Rowley was Minister of Housing. All you never say, but wait now. That don't sound good. That don't look good. That don't look like corporate governance. Where was that editorial, Guardian? What about email gate, election gate 2015, when the EBC tell PNM they have an extra hour but didn't tell the UNC? And then the judge and them say, well, boy, that was wrong. That was unfair. But we cannot really say exactly how much of an advantage, how many actual votes that the PNM got in that last hour that would have impacted each seat. So therefore, we cannot specifically say that that is why they won. And all you take that as basket and say, ooh, good judgment, that cheating is acceptable. Where the editorial on that? What about the comparison of KAMLA versus Rowley? Whether 1 day, 10 days, 100 days, or 10,000 days, KAMLA with her humility, with her love, her care, her policies for people, KAMLA with her life experience. KAMLA was never a teacher and abused her power to take advantage of children. Why y'all didn't do an analysis of that? How KAMLA speaks to the media, how KAMLA treats people without vindictiveness, her policies, her children life fund, her baby milk grant, her increase in gate, tech work across the board, textbooks, laptops. How come you never did an analysis of KAMLA's policy versus Rowley wean yourself off the government? What about KAMLA's cabinet versus Rowley cabinet, person for person, for example? Jolene John, exceptionally brilliant, hardworking, amazing Tobagonian woman who moved herself from Charlottesville up to the heights of CEOs, the best CEOs, most organized, hardest working human being on God green earth, versus Rohan. Green verb Rohan. Why you didn't do that comparison? Lakram Bodo, specialist of over 40 years, gynecologist, specialist, bringing children into this world, more children than I could even count, versus Convent girl, a man who couldn't pass a pharmacological exam. Convent girl as Minister of Health. Why y'all didn't do that? What about John Jeremy, top of his class, teaching lawyers across the board, history of senior counsel, brilliant John Jeremy, versus Al-Rawi, a dunce who take an inordinately long time to get out of law school. How he got in law school? Why y'all didn't investigate that? Go and ask Al-Rawi how he was able to get into law school. What about Dowlat in Ministry of Education versus Garcia and Gadsby Dolly? Gadsby Dolly, who spend more time going up and down steps, right? By Rowley and then by Foster. That is what she spent her time doing. What about Barry Padarat versus Marvin Gonzalez, who was selected by his Prime Minister because he knew absolutely nothing about WASA? Already Barry Padarat in 100 days giving people, even in PNM constituencies, all in Maraval, Dago Martin Northeast, Dago Martin West and so on, people getting water. Things happening across the board, across the country. He also make a talk to Disalcott and say, hey, respect our religious holidays and things in September. So do your maintenance in August, please. The man start and kick down already. More people getting water now than 100 days ago. Why you didn't compare Marvelous Marva the dance versus Barry Padarat, who getting things done, who understand the situation? What about Tanku versus Imbat? All they take an engineer who couldn't build a stadium, the breeze blow it down in Grenada, Tonguehouse fall down in Dago Martin, put he in charge of finances and collapse the economy, use out all the savings KAMLA have there. And all they didn't do a comparison about that, as opposed to Dave Tanku, a qualified man who will understand the economics and the financial policies, the fiscal policies, and move forward. What about Swarat Singh versus Camille? Camille couldn't even pass maths. She didn't even take the maths exam. And Penelope Beckers in planning. The only thing she planned to do was to clean fish and pretend to dance bois. Why you didn't do that comparison? And then the PNM had Fitzgerald, Ethelbert, narcolepsy, Sleepy, Sativa, ride a horse with an 8-year-old boy in the lap, Hines in a cabinet as Minister of Public Utilities and then Minister of National Security. Why you didn't do a comparative analysis of the failure of the PNM? Every time the PNM come in, murder rate skyrocket. Now, that takes me to the next thing. Don't worry. This editorial in the Guardian get worse. Tomorrow, doubles and coffee. Or you wouldn't believe what they tried to do. They tried to pretend that the PNM attempts to keep safety and security utmost in their policies for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, I go deal with that tomorrow. So when you compare UNC and PNM, PNM is failure. Keep them outside. Bless.